Hey, I wanted to quickly go over some of the accommodations that are available for students with individual education plans that I've kind of built into the focus areas on Summit. Um, as you go down in the introduction section, and this will look a little different for students than for mine, because mine's the teacher version, but most of what I was talking about should look the same. You might have to, though, click an arrow to open the introduction section. It can be opened and closed or minimized and expanded. All students have access to the key terms recording sheets and the objective note takers. And those are where the notes should be housed that students will be using. A lot of students with IEPs have an accommodation where there are more guided notes available. And so I'm going to show you where to access those. And they can then be added into these note takers for submission. As you go down into each objective, the first one or two, sometimes three resources, you'll see there's asterisks next to now. Those are ones that have the most focused information that the students will need to understand the concepts. And then there's going to be a Quizlet study guide that says ELL resource. And these are resources that are just available for right now for students with IEPs. And this is very, very targeted. And this would be like guided notes. What those are is if you open it up, you will need a password to get in since you don't have my account, but the password here, practice password, goes right there. And it has flashcards basically, or practice with multiple choice answers. Right now it's on what they call learn. So if a student is in here, as they go through, there are options where they can hit here, and students can choose to have audio on so that they can hear it, which is really good, I think, for them to be both seeing and hearing. And I do like to have it on multiple choice for kids. If it's flashcards, there's not enough interaction, and written questions, they have to be able to type and spell the exact answer, which is, I think, unnecessary for what we're doing. So I would make sure that those are on for the student. And then as you go through, it will, right now, because I'm using the audio for our purposes now, it doesn't show it, but you can click on it to have it read to the student. And there's usually an image, not always, to go with it, and they need to pick the right answer. So a fixed limit or extent defined along a physical geographic features such as mountains or rivers. So on here, they would want to do natural boundary. If they clicked the wrong one, they would come up with the right answer. It would tell them what it is. They can click to listen to the right answer. A lot of kids just click through this part really fast. I try to get them to slow down and actually say, okay, when you get it wrong, you need to stop and think, reread it, and try to picture in your mind what it's telling you so that you'll know it better next time. It also keeps track on here of how many they need to learn, and to know well, they usually have to get it right twice. If you also click back to set, there are a lot of other options of what you can do. You can do simple flashcards. Learn was what we were on. There's ones where they have to write or spell it. There's different ways they can test and some games they can play to interact with the terms. Also, what is nice is you come down here, you can click print. And this is really good if you want them to have them printed out and highlighted. You can choose to have them laid out in a table, a glossary. You can have small or large flashcards made, which are great. You can take off the images, which allows it to be in a more condensed form. So students can go through that way and practice with them, read them, make flashcards. There's a lot of different ways. And these are the things that they'll see when they look on the test. So practicing with these is a very targeted way of studying for the assessments. So I have those available. I don't like students to go directly to those. I'd like them to be able to put that information in context. I don't think there's a lot of value in just memorizing a whole bunch of facts. They have to make sense in the bigger scheme of things. So I would recommend reading with them the textbook and discussing it, but using these as they go through and take notes, and either printing them out and having them go through, and they can highlight, and that photo of that can be submitted for evidence of learning. They can practice with the Quizlet Learn, and it will give them their score, and a photo of that could be used as submission of evidence of learning. I've also, the textbook is on a couple of them, but on a lot of them, I've actually taken the textbook pages and broken them down so there's more detail. So on these slideshows, we go through, and I've just added a lot more images and discussion questions. So these are good ones to read through and discuss with students or your child. You can do it in present mode, so it's a little bit bigger. And it kind of shows them ways of noticing the information and what's important as you go through. And a lot of times I put in yellow the things that are really important that they would want to take notes on, because they might see those in the assessment. So a lot more images and a lot bigger. Sometimes there's videos broken in. So these are kind of like interactive lessons that I've put together for students to be able to go through. So my recommendation would be to go through together and discuss the slideshows, read. Most students will need to take notes on those. You could have the student dictate notes and write for them, or you can stick with just discussing and trying to understand, and then using the Quizlet down here for your notes and your practice. And then some of them, if there's bigger sections, so 5 land regions, instead of showing that all in one slideshow, I kind of broke it up, and so it wasn't as overwhelming. So there's 3 different slideshows for the regions, and then focused directly on Columbia Basin and Plateau where we live. So if you're looking at the different objectives or different focus areas, they'll see theirs on their year view. Mine looks a little different being the teacher, but I have a lot of those in the different ones. And I'm working, I haven't added the asterisks on these ones yet. That's a new thing that I'm doing to try to help students focus. But there are study guides in a lot of them, and working at prioritizing the information. So hopefully that is helpful. As far as assessments go, when they're ready to take the assessment, there are some options if students have accommodations. So they can take the test one-on-one, where they can work with either their resource room teacher or me, and we will put it up on the screen with them and go through and read them out loud, and then eliminate one possible answer. So what I'll usually do is I'll read them, I'll have them pick an answer, and then I'll either agree or disagree. And if I disagree, they can change it, and then we'll move on. They only get to change it once for each question, but that's a way of kind of narrowing down the possibilities. And it still does show, because they'll still have 3 options if they know the information enough to get through, but it makes it a little bit more supported when they're going through it. Another option is to get a printout of the test, and we'll go through and cross out one answer ahead of time, give them the test, and then they can return it when they finish. The thing with all of the tests, though, is that I don't have students use notes on them, because then, since I've given such support with the notes and really told them exactly what they need to know, it's just assessing then whether they can read the notes, which is an important skill, but not the skill that we're trying to assess. So hopefully that is helpful as you're trying to work through the focus areas with your child, and supporting them on that. Since with distance learning, I can't see what they're doing as well and where they're struggling, it's harder for me to know where to step in and support. Where in the classroom, I have a little bit better idea, because I can see where they're struggling more and what they need. So don't hesitate to reach out if there's an area that is unclear, or they're struggling, or they need more supports, and I will do what I can to accommodate their needs. Hopefully this helps again. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.